The lightness of being, on the freedom of the unattached life. In a culture obsessed with being indispensable and connected, there is a quiet, radical bravery in embracing the opposite. We are taught from a young age that our value lies in how much we are needed by our employers and how deeply we are embedded in our social tribes. Yet, as we mature, a new clarity often emerges, a realization that the most profound form of freedom is found in being replaceable and in the capacity to stand entirely alone. The professional world uses the word replaceable as a threat, but for the individual seeking peace, it is a sanctuary. To be an irreplaceable employee is to be a linchpin, often shackled to a desk or a digital tether by the weight of being essential. When we accept our replaceability, we reclaim our life. We realize that the machinery of industry will always turn, and in that humility, we find our exit. We are no longer defined by a title or a productivity metric. Instead, we offer our skills with a light touch, knowing that our true self exists far beyond the confines of a career. This detachment allows us to work with more integrity and less fear, for we are no longer bargaining with our identity for a paycheck. This shift in the workplace is mirrored by an even more significant shift in our social souls. For much of our lives, we are governed by the psychological drive to find self-worth through the groups we belong to. We join tribes to feel safe, but that belonging often comes at a steep price, the exhausting labor of defending a narrow perspective and viewing the other with suspicion. As we age, the hunger for this tribal validation begins to fade, replaced by a desire for a more gracious, unbiased way of being. We stop seeing the world as a collection of us versus them, and start seeing it as a vast, interconnected sea of individuals. When we no longer feel the need to belong to a specific group, we lose the impulse to defend. We move from a state of conflict to a state of coexistence. We can finally love humanity in its entirety, desiring that everyone's basic needs be met, not because they are one of us, but simply because they are human. However, this path toward autonomy often reveals a stark divide between those who are at peace with themselves and those who are terrified of their own company. We all observe those who are other-focused, who cling to social interactions as if they were oxygen. Psychologically, this clinginess is often a flight from the self. Without the noise of others to provide a distraction, these individuals are forced to face their own internal monologue. To be alone is to be seen by oneself, and for many, that is the most intimidating encounter of all. They stay focused on the other because they have not yet made peace with the person in the mirror. But for those who have embraced their own company, solitude is not loneliness. It is the fertile ground for grace. In the absence of an audience, we no longer have to perform a personality or prove a point. We can be open, forgiving, and unbiased. We stop seeking a seat at the table and find peace in the quiet of the room. To live this way is to move through the world with an burdened heart. It is to be a person who seeks no victory, requires no validation, and fears no replacement. By shedding the need to be essential to a company or a tribe, we become whole within ourselves. We transition from a life of striving to a life of being, a life where we coexist with all of humanity, not from a place of desperate need, but from a place of quiet, autonomous compassion.